Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to Lyceum. Today I will be the lecturer, so to speak. And my topic today, and it's funny because it kept popping up in my energy, was the difference between metaphysics and spiritualism. I know it's not an easy topic to discuss only because it's just so vast. And as I was retyping my speech last night, I put, my topic this morning is a brief summation of the difference between metaphysics and spiritualism. And I was like, there's no such thing as brief. One, and two, you really can't summate metaphysics or spiritualism. Everyone likes to equate the two, but as I've dove into this topic, I mean, it's more than just a rabbit hole. Metaphysics, let me just go into what I wrote because I'm getting a little nervous and I'm like, I'm blanking out right now and I don't know why. But it's just, they're both such rich topics that I believe people miss out on the fundamental basics of both. So they both deal with the reality that is beyond the physical. But are they the same thing? No. What I have learned is that they are similar and intertwined at various points, but have two different goals as a whole. Metaphysics deals with the behavior of the non-physical world, right? Whereas spiritualism describes the behavior of a person with regards to this world. So speaking of the personality, if you don't mind, let's dive deeper. Per the internet, vis-a-vis Wikipedia and Google. Metaphysics is a type of philosophy or study that uses broad concepts to help define reality and our understanding of it. Metaphysical studies generally seek to explain inherent and universal elements of reality which are not easily discovered or explained in our everyday life. Now, the question pops up, does that really sound too different from spiritualism? True spiritualist says yes. Ones that are discovering, well, at least me, kind of sit on the fence. Metaphysics is a branch of philosophy that studies the fundamental nature of reality, the first principle being identity and change, space and time, causality, necessity, and possibility. It includes questions about the nature of consciousness and the relationship between mind and matter, between substance and attribute, and between potentiality and actuality. The word metaphysics comes from two Greek words that together literally mean after or behind or among the study of the natural. It has been suggested that the term might have been coined by the first century CE editor who assembled various small selections of Aristotle's works into the treatise we now know by the name Metaphysics, after the Physics, another of Aristotle's works. Metaphysics studies questions related to what it is for something to exist and what types of existence there are. Metaphysics seeks to answer in an abstract and fully general manner the questions, what is there? What is it like? Topics of metaphysical investigation include existence, objects, and their properties, space and time, cause and effect, and possibility. Metaphysics is considered one of the four main branches of philosophy, along with, I know I'm going to mispronounce this word, epistemology, which is theory of knowledge, logic, and ethics. Now, spiritualism. Spiritualism is a social religious movement according to which the laws of nature and of God include the continuity of personality after the transition of death, and the possibility of communication between those living on earth and those who have made the transition. Spiritualism is a metaphysical belief that the world is made up of at least two fundamental substances, matter and spirit. This very broad metaphysical distinction is further developed into many and various forms by the inclusion of details about what spiritual entities exist, such as a soul, the afterlife, spirits of the dead, deities, and mediums, as well as details about the nature of the relationship between spirit and matter. It may also refer to the philosophy, doctrine, or religion pertaining to the spiritual aspects of existence. It is also a term commonly used for various physics or paranormal practices and beliefs recorded throughout humanity's history and in a variety of cultures. Spiritualistic traditions appear deeply rooted in shamanism and perhaps are one of the oldest forms of religion. Mediumship is a modern form of shamanism, and such ideas are very much like those developed by Edward Burnett Taylor in his theory of animism, in which there are other parallel worlds to our own, though invisible to us and not accessible to us in our state. A psychic is to be one of the connecting links between these worlds. A psychic is defined as someone endowed with exceptional sensitivity to the occult dimension, who experiences visions and revelations. Some authors have stated only few individuals are said to have this capacity. One of the questions that, as I was going through this, was, is religion encapsulated within metaphysics? And from the internet, one of the websites, Spiritual Arts Institute on Religion and Metaphysics, there's a quick article by Miss Barbara Martin and Dimitri Moraritis. Sorry, I don't mean to butcher the name. They have a student question and answer section, and the response to that question, do I have to give up my religion to walk the metaphysical path? Their response is, the answer is a resounding no. You can most definitely continue your religious practices and embrace the metaphysical path. As a matter of fact, metaphysics can deepen your understanding and appreciation of the religion you may be practicing. Metaphysics in itself is not a religion. It is a spiritual school of learning. The ancients called these training centers mystery schools because students in these schools were learning the mysteries of life as a part of their quest for spiritual enlightenment. Doing further research on the internet, I found the Canadian Encyclopedia, which, defining more metaphysics. Metaphysics chiefly addresses questions about what is ultimately real and important. Philosophy of religion explores and evaluates religious views of reality and seeks to understand religious practices. Now, in the NSAC Spiritualist Manual, this is one of the older ones, what spiritualism is and does. It teaches personal responsibility. It removes all fear of death, which is really the portal of the spirit world. It teaches that death is not the cessation of life, but mere change of condition. It teaches not that a man has a soul, but that a man is a soul and has a body. That man is a spiritual being now, even while encased in flesh. That as man sows on earth, he reaps in the life to come. That those who have passed on are conscious, not asleep. That communication between the living and the dead, in quotes, is scientifically proved. It thus brings comfort to the bereaved and alleviates sorrow. Spiritualism is the science, philosophy, and religion of the continuous life, based upon the demonstrated fact of communication by means of mediumship, which those who live in the spirit, with those who live in the spirit world. It brings to the surface man's spiritual gifts, such as inspiration, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and healing powers. It teaches that the spark of divinity dwells in all. And that should be capitalized in this book, I'm just saying. That as a flower gradually unfolds in beauty, so the spirit of man unfolds and develops in the spirit spheres. And the book goes into all about different spheres. Spiritualism is God's message to mortals, declaring that there is no death, that all who have passed on still live, that there is hope in the life beyond for the most sinful, that every soul will progress through the ages to heights sublime and glorious, where God is love and love is God. It is a manifestation, a demonstration, and a proof of the continuity of life and of the truth of the many spirit manifestations recorded in the Christian Bible. It demonstrates the many spiritual gifts with which mankind is endowed, but which through want of knowledge have been allowed to lie dormant, or through prejudice have been violently and unjustly suppressed. Now think on that for a minute. A gentleman had come in one Wednesday evening, because as you all know, we regularly have Wednesday message services from 7 to 9 p.m. right here in the temple. Quick plug in there for you. And the gentleman asked, "What is all of this?" And I looked at him and I was like, "What is this?" I panicked because I was in the zone. I was giving messages. I was in the zone. And I got nervous. And my logic mind kicked in. What is all this? This is proving the continuity of life. You are witnessing a connection between the medium, the person that's the intermediary between infinite intelligence and this earth plane. This is us communicating, letting you know what's going on, giving you some sort of message. We don't know all the answers, but some sort of message that you need to hear at this moment to help you move forward. And he looked at me and he was still, you could tell that he was still querying it in his head. And I was like, skeptical. And he says, "Yes, I'm a skeptic." And I said, "That's a good thing. That's a good thing." Spiritualism is the science, philosophy, and religion of the continuity of death, of life after the so-called change, death. Being a skeptic is what helps us here in this physical plane learn more, grow more, and connect with infinite intelligence in a way we never thought possible. Because we're still a logical mind, we're here, we're physical. This is, everything here is what we see is what it is. But then how do we explain miracles? How do we explain having the right answer at the right time or being in the right place at the right moment? Because you're needed. In a lot of the meditations that myself and others here give, I mean, you could see how it really deeply connects people in a way that they may not find, I want to say in the outside world, but it's our world, right? We make it what it is. This gives them that ease to be able to connect in a different way. Here in Casadega, they're always teaching us that everyone has the ability. It's a matter of us taking personal responsibility, right? Because you cannot forgo personal responsibility, taking personal responsibility. And some people would say taking the horn by the reins and wanting to do it. Not stop doubting yourself, stop querying yourself, but knowing that it's there. Knowing that each of us is a spark of that infinite intelligence. That's what it speaks about, right? Spark of that infinite intelligence. We're always connected in the field. We see it, but we don't see it because it's everywhere with us. This we see because the atoms, the matter, whatever you want to call it, have slowed down enough for us to see it. Our physical has slowed down enough for us to manifest and see it, to be it, to use this vehicle. But then the question, where do we go at night? How do we sleep? Well, just like your car, when you sleep, you're opening that door to go out and explore something new. Because the infinite it never ceases, whether we're awake or we're asleep. It's constantly connecting us and constantly showing us, okay, you've learned this lesson. Wait, I got one more for you, because you may have learned this portion of that lesson, but there's something else you need to learn about that lesson because it's much broader than you thought it was. And I've learned, when we talk about our principles, we make our own happiness and unhappiness. It wasn't until I became much older that I actually learned how true that was, because I took personal responsibility for the things that I was doing and realizing I was creating my own chaos, my own hell. Now, mind you, I was dragging other people with me. I mean, think about it. When you're, again, speaking as one of the teachers says, from my own two shoes. At home, now I'm married, I have 2 kids. Okay? But my husband is my partner. My best friend, and I'm glad he's not watching because then his ego will go this big. But the person that I depend on quite a bit, not realizing how much he depends on me. At one point I thought we were polar opposites. Oh gosh, this will never last. Good 7 years and, it'll be done. Well, I'm now married 27 years later. Not done quite yet. But growing and learning with him, as much as he's the leader in our family group, I'm just as much as a leader. I questioned our partnership. He's more dominant than I am, although he has taught me to grow in my own dominance. But I've also taught him how to back off and have more compassion. And he's taught me to not limit my compassion, but understand it and use it, because it's a tool. Use it to the best ability of those around me and myself, to share it. Not to just give it away and not just to be selfish, but to share. I want to say since we've moved to Florida, and that's what, 3 years now, 3.5 years now, I have learned so much from him, but I've also learned so much about myself coming here, and how I no longer give away my personal power to him. I no longer keep it strictly to myself, because I've got to teach my daughter how to be an independent woman. But there is freedom in that. There is independence in that. When you can share openly and lovingly and compassionately with someone else. Now that's my partner. That's my life partner. But I come to the camp and I share with everyone else. Now, what does that have to do with metaphysics and spiritualism, right? I've gone off into my tangent. But when you think about metaphysics, right, it's having a philosophy, a theory, and then proving that. I had my theories, my philosophies going as we were going through our marriages, our good, our bad times, our ups and our downs. But in Florida, I have been able to prove it to myself. And I've also been able to prove it to him, and he's learning to prove it for himself. That is a wow moment for me, like you wouldn't believe. But with spirituality, with spiritualism, it just shows that spirit, the infinite intelligence, again, is in everything, is in everyone. We have to find a way to connect. We became disconnected centuries ago, because we would be able to go as one group and move kind of like the birds do. The swallows, that they have that big hive looking, that big mask of beauty, and how they move in the sky. They're in rhythm, they're in sync. I mean, people on the internet, the Great Reset, right? But it's, what do we want to reset? We can't go back to where we were, right? Because let's face it, it really wasn't all that great. But this is our opportunity to make something so much more grandeur. In the meditations, we connect. But we shouldn't have to wait until meditation to connect. Technology is a beautiful thing. It's how you use it. We can connect through technology, through the internet, but we can also connect one-on-one. Being able to see someone in person and seeing them smile. Being able to share a laugh, to tell a story, to hear a story. Just to be around another individual. Oh my gosh. What a wonderful thing. I am blessed to be with everyone here and everyone on the internet that's listening. Thank you. Having the physics, proving that we are each other's cheerleader, each other's friend, those that are willing to listen and even fight, because sometimes the coco can be really hard. And we do have our cracks, we're not impenetrable. And sometimes we've got to fight to get that person to be still and just listen, but in a good and positive way. We're so used to forcing and dominating in that past that in this reset, we're finding new ways. Finding new ways to love, and who would have thought that? Finding new ways to connect, even with the technology. We can't keep each other down anymore. Metaphysics and spiritualism, even though, on the papers, they're very different. Well, I wouldn't say very different, because like I said, for me, they intertwine. Let's find those intersecting points. Like the helix, the DNA helix. There's that ladder. Ladders are bridges. Let's build that bridge to one another. Let's build that bridge with ourselves. And let's continue that Jacob's ladder all the way to infinite intelligence. Up, down, and sideways. Because we're worth it. Coming here, people talk about being a human, being on Earth is one of the toughest schools, and oh yeah. Again, I come from the school of hard knocks. But what I've learned in these 3.5 years in Florida is how beautiful everything is around me. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's still great and marvelous works that we can learn and grow from. And it doesn't have to stop us or define us. But we do have to learn from it. We do have to expand from it. Because in that expansion, it connects us even more to each other and to infinite intelligence. So that we're not relying on someone to give us an answer, but to confirm what we already know. Because we are each other's keeper. We are each other's best friends. And here in Casadega, I am truly grateful because that's one of the greatest lessons I've learned here. Thank you all for listening. But we have a couple of minutes, so does anybody have any questions? Please. Don't be shy, because as you guys know, I'm not. Well, not all the time. Nothing, John? It's because of you guys. You questioning, listening to you at Lyceum question and challenge everything. It made me comfortable in my own skin to do so. And I appreciate you for that. So thank you. Miss Susan?
Because John lets you down, because he always asks the questions. I'm going to have room for a comment. I would like to thank you so much for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
It was so wonderful. It's so thoughtful.
Thank you. Thank you. Guys, you're not supposed to make me cry up here.
I know, when you're preparing for one of these, you're researching, you're going, and things just pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that for any one of us. What was your biggest takeaway while you were preparing for this?
My biggest takeaway is not so much look at the differences, because that's what it started out, is what are the differences, because I was so confused between the two topics, because everyone kept saying that they're the same, or no, they're different, and I was like, and one's inside the other, or part of the other. My biggest takeaway is stop looking for the differences. Look for where it's the same and grow that, because believe it or not, even though they look like they're polar opposites, they're actually just the spectrum of one of the same thing. You got to find that middle path, as Buddha used to say. Find that middle path, and you will never go wrong. That was my biggest takeaway. Yes, Miss Eileen?
I have a comment. I started coming here 34 years ago, and the metaphysical part is what attracted me, like the crystals and the auras and the readings, and it just really attracted me. But the spiritualism is what's kept me coming back, because once I started coming to services, that I felt like I was home. But it took me a good 20 years to realize that spiritualism was actually a religion. I came here for 20 years before I actually got that it was a specific religion that encompassed metaphysical things.
Mm-hmm. But now, if you speak to someone who is more metaphysical than a part of spiritualism because I don't want to say that they're not spiritists, because they are, very much so, because that's a part of what they question. They would say that spiritualism is a part of metaphysics, it's a subset of metaphysics. And that's where I was being torn by the two. And I was like, but why? Why do they have to, and they're not. Like I said, they're one and the same, they intertwine. It's just finding those intersections and then growing it, because as you're going through an intersection, right, it's opening. But then there's that little ladder that comes between the two. And it's like, oh, but this is kind of, but it's not, because it actually falls more on the metaphysics side, proving it, versus spiritualism of it's a part of infinite intelligence, which is a part of natural law. And why does the natural law work? And then with the natural law, then it itself goes up and says, okay, natural law, you have these two, cause and effect. It's just an awesome subject matter, and like I said, I cannot do it justice just in this one sitting. It's a very good subject matter, both of them, to study independently and then bringing them together as well.
How do you tell the difference between something that's like actually like metaphysical and what's you either holding on to another soul or an archetype kind of thing? Like for example, I think there's time writers, you know, that they're writing the time or something, and sometimes they're actually hanging on to them, trying to comprehend the metaphysical power or something like that. And you feel your breath just like getting pulled out of you and stuff like that. You know, or
How do you tell the difference?
yeah, when you're imagining something like what's the metaphysical and you know, and not trying to let it latch onto another being or something like that, or you know, inviting stuff that where you get to where you can't tell the difference between you and it. You know what I mean?
Okay, metaphysics, from my studies, and mind you, I don't think I even hit the tip of the iceberg with metaphysics. Metaphysics is following the science of it. Whereas if you're feeling a spirit, another energy, that's spiritualism. Because you're able, when you get into your quietude, and this is true of anything, once you get into your quietude, once you go into your meditation, that will help you decipher whether it's another spirit that's trying to say, hey, you're my guy. You're the one that I want to give this knowledge to, because I think you would be the one to, you know, best express it in your realm. Versus, I have this question and it's burning. It's a burning question, but how do I prove it? Where's the science behind this? Where does this fall into? What scientific category does this fall into? And then proving it. Because science, right, is theory and philosophy, but you have to prove those.
Yeah.
Whereas spiritualism, it starts to prove itself little by little as you go deeper into that quietude. And if it's taking your breath away, just say, hey, okay, this is not, I don't like my breath being gone. I want to keep my breath, but I want us to connect. So prove yourself to me.
Okay.
Again, spiritualism is a philosophy as well. And mediums have to prove continuity of life after death, right? But that's those that have been on this physical plane. We also deal with those that have never been on this physical plane. They still have to prove their being. And that's when you'll know your spirit. It's funny how much the soul really does know when we stop and pay attention to it. Because it'll cut that person off if they're negative and they're not doing anything for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Miss Eileen.
I just wanted to say that I have had experiences where I have existed as other beings or other entities in my readings and in my meditations, but there's always still awareness that it's not me.
Oh, okay.
There's like a separate awareness. I'm existing as that person. Like it can even happen to me. I can watch an ice skater on TV, and all of a sudden I am that person. I can feel everything, but I know we're connected, but there's something that lets me know that it's separate than me.
I appreciate that advice.
But existing as, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I've seen that before, with all the other, yeah, anyway, I'm not getting that was a great story.
Yes, Miss Marie?
Coquette, is it fair to say this relationship between metaphysics and spiritualism is like the connection of the mind and the heart? The mind and the heart?
I would say yes.
And so it balances it out if we consider both of them together, like you were saying.
Yeah, instead of separating the two. Yeah, because you're, as one of my teachers here says, above the eyes. You're not living just from the earth plane, but you're taking that grounding knowledge and allowing yourself to go up so that you are staying connected and true to yourself, the middle path. Miss Gates?
So when I first started this so many years ago, the husband was real happy to be here, but my dad was kind of wondering because he raised me as a Quaker. So I'm a birthright Quaker, both mom and dad were Quakers. They weren't sure about this kind of religion. And the neat thing, we read that book, it's a blue book, I can't remember the name of the author, but anyway, it's a guy. But anyway, so when he read it, and then I read it, it both said the same thing as his book. He was trying to give me the Quaker book, and so these two books like came together. There's something on the back part of that blue book that y'all want to kind of call Becoming a Spiritualist, and it's kind of welcomed him into my world as I welcomed him into my new world. And so before he passed, we agreed that it was okay for me to be. But it's a beautiful book if y'all just entering spiritualism. It really shows very well what who we are, what we stand for, and what we believe in. So Becoming a Spiritualist by,
Burroughs.
thank you.
Miss Burroughs, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good book to get started.
Well, for those on the internet that may not have heard, Miss Marie Gates is, there's a blue book called Becoming a Spiritualist by Burroughs. I believe it's G.H. Burroughs, I think, is on the book. It's a small little book. It's a light blue cover. We actually sell it here in the bookstore. But regardless of your religion, you are so right, Miss Marie. It helps connect people in a deeper, more profound way